This show is brought to you by Loud and Opinionated.
Welcome to Loud Sports Podcast for Thursday, June 13th. We're recording this on Wednesday night, live watching the third period of the Stanley Cup. So we'll let you know what happens. I'm Paul Rubidoux here with Brandon Plecker.
Hey, guys.
And Jake Williams,
Hey.
our resident hockey expert. He'll be coming to you later this week with the puck
expert.
drops here. But for now, we got some other stuff to talk about while we're watching it. We're going to start locally with Isiah Moss. Brandon, why does he hate Iowa State?
He went to Iowa.
And then to Kansas.
Why would he like Iowa State?
I don't know. Is he from the state?
He's from Illinois.
He's from
Chicago.
Illinois. Okay.
From Chicago.
Of course, he's from Chicago.
So,
Everyone in the Big Ten's from Chicago.
Yeah,
right. I'm just, maybe I'm taking it too personally that I feel there's something to it that he goes from Iowa to Kansas after decommitting from Arkansas as a grad transfer. And maybe that's just me being butthurt about Kansas getting everybody, but it seems like there's something there. I do think Kansas picked up a guy that they need here because from a Big 12 perspective, you can never do with enough grad transfers. I think that having one grad transfer a year on your team makes for leadership. It makes for a better overall team like Mariel Shayok this year on Iowa State.
You're telling me, according to your sources, he'll be used as a situational perimeter threat. Whose source is this?
Well, my family
You
is...
never reveal your sources.
Yeah, never reveal your
I was
sources.
seeing if you were a true journalist, because a true journalist will never reveal their sources.
My family's from Kansas, and so I have my own personal hell of having a lot of Jayhawk fans in my family. And
That's your source.
it really is. No, I asked my brother-in-law and some cousins, I said, "What is he really going to be used? Like, are you happy to get him?" And the response is that, yeah, you know, we're happy he's here because he's a three-point shooter, but he's only really going to be used as a situational perimeter threat, like a drive and kick guy in small ball lineups.
Which
He's 6'5", which in the Big 12, 6'5" is a power forward because everybody almost plays small ball, except Kansas sometimes.
it's just annoying that he's going to Kansas. You know,
That's what it is
it's like
to
the
me.
rich get richer. It's
That's
like, why?
exactly.
Why do you need? You don't need this guy, kind of thing.
Well, apparently they do need him because as a team last year, the Jayhawks shot 28% from three, and he's a 42%. Well, as his junior year last year, he shot 42%. So he does add something that it seems Kansas needs. Brandon, you're a Hawkeye. What's your Isiah Moss opinion?
See, I've been watching him since he was a freshman, and he was very, very good his freshman season, and I thought he was playing along with Peter Jock, right, as the third starter as a freshman, and I thought maybe we had a guy who could become that kind of scorer because I think he averaged double-digit points as a freshman starting for Iowa, but the last few years he's just very inconsistent in my opinion, and he doesn't show up every game.
Do you think that's a role given to him by Fran that he's
No,
kind of settled in?
I really don't. He just doesn't. He'll go 3-game stretch where he'll score 20 points 3 games, and then he'll go and score 0 for 3 games in a row. And that's just I did not like that as a fan's perspective because why would I don't want this guy who's going to give me 0 points 3 games and he's a starter and he's supposed to be one of my best scorers.
Right.
So I didn't like his consistency, and that was my biggest hit on him, I guess, as a fan.
Because he spent 4 years in Iowa City. He's going to Kansas as a senior, but he was a redshirt junior. And I do want to say that I do respect anybody that graduates after their redshirt junior year. I get that is your 4th year of college, but as a Division I athlete, I would milk 5 years, man. I would put my class schedule out for a full 5 years to make it easier on myself. So for him to do this, I do think that's a respectable thing. Just not Kansas.
Get over it. Iowa State's just gonna get eliminated, first or second round of March Madness anyway. So
That's fine. Iowa State beat Kansas 2 out of 3 games last year, so we'll just run it back.
Doesn't matter. Fred Hoiberg is taking the Huskers all the way. Go Big Red. Go Big Fred. That's all I have to say about that.
He's still getting shown up by Scott Frost everywhere he goes.
Well, he will for his whole entire tenure in Nebraska. That's gonna happen.
Another goal by the Blues.
Oh wow.
Blues
Jeez.
4-0.
This is disrespect.
It's over. Look at the. Oh my gosh! Do you
did
see the
how
fans?
fast they all left?
Did you see that? The stairwells were filled with fans.
By the way, I'd like to point out, if you listen to the Puck Drops here, you already know this, but if you don't, I actually had, after the first round, we kind of, since both Brandon and you're Brandon, Brent and I, both our teams got swept in the first round, so we said, who are going to be our dark horse pick? Who do we think is going to come out of nowhere and win? And I picked the St. Louis Blues. So
Good pick.
maybe I am a hockey expert.
That's why we have you for the Puck Drops here, because I can't do it, man. I've never ice skated once in my life. That's a true fact.
I have once. Broke my arm.
No.
Never done it again.
We're going to be talking about them later, but it's like when I watch hockey, or not when I watch hockey, goodness. We're watching hockey. When I watch soccer, like the Women's World Cup's going on right now,
Mhm.
it's the only time I watch soccer is because it's like America's in it. And we'll be talking about them later. But
Right. You're messing with my transitions here. We're going from college
I
to
led
pro
you
basketball.
in, man.
We're going from college to pro basketball, then to another pro, and then back to another football. See?
Gotcha.
Made it a full circle.
I'm glad they know now.
Yeah. Now that you have the table of contents for the episode, we have talked about Isiah Moss because we reported on him going to Arkansas earlier, but it seems like that was just a hectic point in his life where he was graduating, and he hadn't even visited the Jayhawks yet. His Jayhawk visit was May 12th. Why do you make a decision before you visit all your places? I don't understand that.
That is kind of weird, but maybe he just, when you think about it, when I'm like Kansas, if Kansas is interested, I'm gonna go there. I mean, why would
completely
why would
understand
you bother
that.
go anywhere else?
No, you're 100% right. Kansas is a blue blood where they can get guys to the NBA, even if it's second round, develop in the D League type of guy. Bill Self can get you there. He can tell you what you need, and you can develop. And so I understand the decision, because if Kansas was interested in me, and I'm a high-level guy, it'd be hard for me to not go to Kansas. But we'll see how he plays against Iowa State, another Big 12, in a faster-paced style of game in
Which
the Big
does
12.
the Big 12 does definitely fit his play style more than
Absolutely.
the Big 10, because he
Yes.
is that. Well, I mean, Iowa plays a more of a fast pace compared to other Big 10 teams, but Isiah Moss is one of those guys that really does thrive in the open court, which the Big 12 will help in that way.
Well, from college basketball to pro basketball, oh my goodness, we watched Game 5. 1-point win by the Warriors. Let's start with the game as a whole before we go to the entire Kevin Durant perspective. Does it feel like this is a change and the Warriors are fighting, or does it feel like they just kind of pushed off elimination?
I think it shows that the Warriors are a true champion and they have the heart of a champion, that they won't give up until they are. You have to beat them.
You know who I saw that with? Kevin Looney. Or Kevon, excuse me. Kevin's his twin. You named twins Kevin and Kevon. Come on.
Yeah.
But Kevon Looney, he's playing out here, and you see him grimacing at every dead ball. You see him feeling his arm. He can't even use his right arm, and he's out here playing. And you're right, the heart of a champion, absolutely.
And I think that was evident in that game, especially after the KD injury in Toronto. How easy would it have been for them to just fold and
would you have blamed them for just deflating?
Because they got their guy back, and then just heartbreak right in the first half, right away.
He was 3 for 3 from deep in the first quarter.
Exactly.
He
And he looked
great.
he looked like KD, and then you just lose him again. Just heartbreaking.
3 minutes after it happens, those phantom cam videos show up on Twitter, and I hate that, man, because it makes my stomach churn when you super slowly watch the ripple through his leg.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
I didn't
like watching that either.
I don't like watching leg injuries. I just, especially not bone breaking stuff, but stuff like that where you watch the running back's knee go the wrong way. I don't like leg injuries, and I really feel for Kevin Durant. And let's get into it. Does this change the public's perspective of Kevin Durant, that he's a competitor? He came out here for his team. He was not 100%.
I think it changes a lot of things. I would agree with you that it changes public perception of him. I also think it changes how people are going to be towards the off season.
Right.
Because you and I were both people that were like, he's not playing because he doesn't care, because he's checked out. once he got hurt.
I did feel he was checked out.
Right. That he didn't want to play anymore or do any of that. And then, you see what happens, and then it comes out later that they say he was nowhere near 100%.
The team cautioned against this.
The team, what Myers said in the press conference when it happened is that their doctors believed he was ready to go, and their whole staff believed he was ready to go. So that's why they let him go. They wouldn't just let him go out there
No, I know.
on his own.
But
That's not how this works.
Right.
But I think maybe they thought that, but it was evident that it just wasn't the case. And I'm not going to point fingers and say he shouldn't have been out there because of the team. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is it did show that he does care about this team and care about this series, because he could have easily just sat out Game 5 and the Raptors could have won and could have been it. He could have been whatever. I'm going to the Knicks or wherever we think he might go. So I think that is a big factor into how people perceive him, and I don't think people will be as negative about him anymore.
I think a big part of it is I really don't think I don't think the Warriors thought they'd be down 3-1. And I think a big part of that is, we're down 3-1 and this might be his last chance. He has to go out and show that he cared. I think that was a part of it. But then the worst possible scenario happens where he's going to miss the entire 2019-20 season.
I don't think it was really the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors as a franchise would have cared if KD played. The legacy was on KD. The whole question is on KD. It's not on the Warriors.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with the Warriors really at all. It's all about KD, especially if they think he's gonna leave. Like they don't gain or lose anything from that.
But I think that this shows that he cares so much about what is said about him, because I think you're right that the Warriors are the Warriors, and that they would have been like, all right, we lost, but we played the whole series without him. We can't say we lost without him because we had our guys. No matter if Clay's at 50% and Kevon Looney can't move his arm. I think that this was a KD move, a KD decision, with him saying, I need to show that I care. I think is part of it, because out of any superstar in any league, who lets the public get to them more than Kevin Durant? Who lets Twitter get to them more?
It was so funny that we found out later that he had a burner account.
The burner is a big part of this.
That was my thing too. I mean, Kevin Durant, I think, I don't think he takes the public perception of him well. So I think this was all his decision, and I think it worked.
But if you don't think that LeBron doesn't have 5 burners, you're joking. And that's really what it comes down to, is the NBA is the social media league.
I'm sure if this podcast ever took off and got big, I'd have a burner account.
Because
I know the stupid things I say.
I have 2 Twitters, but I just want one for sports specifically, and that's it. I wouldn't say one's a burner. But I think that this is a huge ripple effect throughout the entire league, and I don't think we'll ever, within 5 years, know everything that's affected by this, because I put on a Twitter poll on Loud Sports. Will this affect if he chooses to take his player option? And I think it did. But then Woj came out and said the Knicks are not worried and still willing to offer him a max and let him sit out an entire year. But how many teams are still willing to do that? I don't think the Clippers would. The Clippers are almost in win now mode.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of teams would never stop. 1 year would not hinge my wanting of Kevin Durant. He is still the best player in the NBA.
I agree with you.
So even if he is out for a year, you still get him for 3 more after that.
Right. He's
3 plus 1.
Yeah.
Even on the bench, he's still valuable to you because
he's valuable in the offseason next year because he's coming back.
Yeah.
And the way he plays, I don't think that an injury affects him as much as, say, Derrick Rose's injury, like stuff like that, because he's a shooter.
Or even Boogie on the same team.
Or Boogie.
Even that, you could also you can use him as a leadership role, and he can still be very effective.
A mentor.
In your locker room without actually having to play.
He is a champion, so he knows what it takes to win, and so those teams,
he's got 3
with young
rings,
people,
so
will be able to learn how to win.
Who's where was it the 3?
No, the
He only
first
has 2.
the first one was when they
Yeah.
Warriors won,
When
beat
they-
the Cavs, and then he joined.
Unless they come back and
All
win
right,
this one.
Blues win 4-1.
4-1, and I'll be talking.
That Bruins guy broke his face for nothing.
Broke his jaw for nothing. Yeah, we'll have a full breakdown on this next week for the puck drops here. I'm going on vacation. Otherwise, we'd have it up soon.
A hiatus.
Going off the grid.
There's a few other things I do want to say while we're talking about the NBA here, because I'm a huge believer in Fred VanVleet this series. Besides him basically getting his eye cut open, I think that what he's done is one of those things that where the fifth guy on your roster actually does determine if you win a series. Brandon, would the Heat have been where the Heat were without Udonis Haslem?
No,
But was he even the top 3 most important person on that team?
definitely not.
Exactly. And so that's why I think the way that Van Vliet just doesn't even care about the basket. He watches Steph, and he is just his shadow. I think that has been super underrated throughout this series. And the fact that 5 minutes into the game, he throws his elbow out when he's got the ball, man. Van Vliet will throw his elbow out, and he did it to Kevin Durant 5 minutes into game 5, and they get in each other's faces. That to me is that heart of a champion thing that really determines who's going to win a series if your number 5 and 6 guys are going all out like that. I really respect what Van Vliet is doing this series. But to who he's guarding, what does this series mean for Steph?
Well, I think this series. I texted you when the Warriors went down after Game 4. After the Warriors went down 3-1, I said the dynasty was dead. Now,
Long live the board, man.
now we don't know if that's true yet. Obviously, there's still could possibly be 2 more games, but I think this legacy. I don't think it should hurt his legacy at all, because people could say maybe he needed KD, but I was like, that's just not true, because they won without KD before.
I think we're a preemptive year away from saying the dynasty is dead, because
I definitely think this is the beginning of it.
if Kevin leaves, there's still a contender in the
Definitely.
West.
Oh, yeah, they still have
they're
Clay,
still
they
the
still
favorite
have-
in the West.
They still have Steph,
unless
Draymond.
KD joins, say. Now I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if KD, well, now he's also injured. KD and Kawhi join up in LA, that would probably be pretty tough. That'll be definitely a
That would
close
be-
race
that would
between
be
Golden State and
insane.
that
If
team.
Jimmy Butler signs in the Lakers and they manage the
and
Anthony
they
Davis
get AD,
trade,
yes, that would be another one.
And
But
but
it's hard-
but as teams are currently constructed, even without Kevin Durant, the Warriors are still the favorite in
you're
the West.
right. I would say the
Absolutely.
Warriors would be the preseason favorite unless we get those big shakeups,
Yeah.
which we'll go over. We will have a free agency pre and post free agency episode
But
where we dive into this.
to answer the question, like I said, I don't think it tarnishes his legacy, or I don't think it should change opinions either way.
I think that monster game that he had was huge,
That's exactly. That adds to it.
even in a loss.
Yeah, because that to me says, let's not pretend that this guy isn't the superstar he was.
Game
you
5,
know?
he had another 20, 22 in the first half. Super quiet. He's running all over the court. It's a lead by example thing.
Yeah, I would agree that I don't think that this finals affects Steph Curry and how he is perceived among one of the greats that's ever played. Really,
Right.
he's one of the best players there's ever been. He will go down as one of those generational players, and this losing a finals like this doesn't really affect that aspect, in
Now-
my opinion.
But I really believe that this is the beginning of the end of the dynasty.
There's going to be a lot of people that say he's 1 and 2 without Kevin Durant.
True, but I think this shows that. I mean, if Kawhi stays, I think Toronto is a good favorite to be there as well. If you talk about the Warriors being a favorite in the West, I think the Raptors will be a favorite in the East. But I think that they've kind of shown the chink in the armor. You know what I mean? I think the Raptors have shown that this team is beatable. We can't, you can do it. Because, I mean, for a while when they got KD you didn't think it was possible.
They're also doing it
But
without KD.
right,
So you
is
have
it-
to put that in.
Yeah,
you
that's-
have to
that's
They're
take
going
it
to
with a
spend
grain
that
of
30
salt.
million somewhere else
and the
if
way
he's
I'm saying,
gone.
the way I'm saying is that I honestly think KD's leaving. Even after Game 5, where you could think maybe, but I don't think it was for, like you were saying. I don't think it was for Golden State. I think it was for him, and I think it was to say, "Hey guys, I'm still a basketball player. I'm not this. I'm not a wuss or a lazy.
I'm a competitor.
Or anything. I'm a competitor, right? So I don't necessarily think that was for Golden State. I think that, and I mean, look
Like
at
2 weeks ago, I was sick, and I was like, I'm not missing our playoff rec league game. And Brandon tried to come out of the game, and I was like, no, stay in, because I had just popped I just popped a cough drop. And Brandon was like, hey, come in. And I was like, no, I'm staying out of here. But there is that competitor aspect, and I think that's why he was there. But I
think he's gone.
But that depends on who's going to offer him the max. He's not taking anything less than the max. The NBA is just at a point where if you can get your money, and more power to you. That's awesome.
He can get his money in Golden State.
Oh, well, it's a
He can
player.
get the most money in Golden State.
It's player option though.
That's
That's if he.
No,
that's
I
if
don't think he
signs
stays in
long-term.
Golden State because I think that if we're talking about his legacy, I don't think his legacy, he won't be viewed as the great player that he is if he does stay in Golden State.
Exactly. Just like LeBron's legacy is not a Heat.
Exactly.
As much as you don't want to hear that, Brandon.
But yes.
His legacy is a Cavs.
And
Yeah.
everybody's going to remember LeBron for coming back to Cleveland and winning from 3-1.
His whole
and
career
doing all
arc
that stuff.
depends on the one Cleveland win. His entire career to that point meant nothing without the Cleveland win.
No,
Right.
and he's still in Cleveland right now without that. He never goes to LA as a Laker. He never becomes a Laker if he doesn't win that,
he's
that
gonna
title either.
spend-
Absolutely.
his
He
whole
is in
career.
prison in Cleveland if he doesn't win a title.
So, do you think? So that's why KD did it, right? So he could be like, do you think he does what LeBron does and goes back to OKC to do the same thing?
I think it's almost
Because then he would definitely be, if he isn't already, everybody would be like comparing him to LeBron way too much.
I think what Kevin Durant did is almost an audition to teams and players, possible free agents and teams, to show this is the kind of guy I am. I'm not checked out. I think that actually matters.
Yeah, I think so too. But I also do. If you're KD, do you really need to? Do you really need to be like, hey?
He was never questioned by other players in the NBA.
Correct. That's a great point.
Well, it was
Except C.J. McCollum.
It was public perception. Yeah.
CJ McCollum just said that was mad that KD told him that they weren't a contender.
On his
that's
on
different.
his podcast.
That's
his
different.
podcast.
CJ never said that KD wasn't a great player.
But then CJ comes out with that stupid analogy with pardon my take, saying like this is like if you like West Side Story, if you get beat up by a gang and then you join that gang and beat up your own gang, comparing the 3-1 loss of the Thunder.
Could you have
to then
picked
joining.
a more lame
And that's-
movie for that analogy?
Well, that's thank you, but that's what made Kevin Durant angry to where he's like, I just came on your podcast. But I do think that I think obviously the Knicks are still going to offer him a max. But besides the Knicks, there are probably teams that are affected by this injury. Like I said, if I'm the Clippers, I think I go after two other guys.
Clippers are going after Kawhi, so I don't know if they would go
Clippers
after
want
KD.
Kawhi, and I also think Clippers want Jimmy Butler. But I don't think that they can coexist.
Butler
If they
and
do,
Kawhi.
that is the most unable to score on perimeter of all time. Seriously.
Great defensive.
Since Michael and Pippen, there would be no other wings that stop you like Jimmy Butler and Kawhi.
With Pat Beverly as a point
Oh
guard.
my gosh. Why did they get rid of DeAndre Jordan if this is going to happen, But that's well, Montrezl Harrell can lock you down at the 4 because he's a high energy guy. But we'll save that for our free agency. Just with what happened so far, I've been saying since before game 1, no matter what, the Warriors win game 6 because it's the last game at Oracle. And now that prediction becomes super interesting because if I'm right, we go to 7.
I would also like to point out that my prediction initially was Raptors in 7. Then I changed it to Raptors in 6. I stand by that now. Raptors in 6. And it's going to be the ultimate slap in the face to Golden State.
The
because
Raptors
the
win
Raptors
the
are winning
final
their
game.
first ever
in Oracle. to
in
win
their
the
Oracle.
first
championship.
ever championship in the last game at Oracle.
Well, after games 3 and 4,
I want it to happen because I just can't stand Golden State, so that'd be like the perfect ending for me.
it's crazy because after every away game that the Raptors have won, the away stadium starts singing "Oh Canada," because if you are a Canadian that likes basketball and you're in Philadelphia or San Francisco, you are or Milwaukee, you're at these games. And so I think that is going to be an interesting aspect of the amount of Raptor fans at Game 6. But I still stand by, I think Golden State's going to win Game 6 because I don't see how they lose the final game ever in that arena after the dynasty they've had.
Here's what I think's gonna happen. All right, put on a tinfoil hat. Adam Silver's obviously gonna talk to the refs and be like, "Look, we need Golden State to win this game because Game 7s bring in a ton of ratings. That's what's gonna happen." Conspiracy theory.
I don't think it's rigged,
I'm kidding,
but
that's not
I
gonna
do
happen.
think the NBA is the most controlled.
They're gonna let
league.
them play a lot in these last 2 games. They're gonna let a lot. Go
I
in the
agree
last
with
2
you.
games.
I think it's going to be a let the boys play kind of game.
Yeah,
That's how it should be.
you're deciding a championship, and it's the last 2 games.
Right, this
possibly
is where the
last
grown
2
men show
games
up.
of the
Absolutely.
season. You have to do that. You guys, but we're all in agreement. We all still feel confident the Raptors are going to win.
I think the Raptors win, but I think it's 7
I
because
think it's in 7
I
as
still
well.
stand by
I
my
think
Warriors.
Steph and Clay are Oracle Arena means so much to Steph and Clay,
Right.
And
and those guys are going to ball out.
yeah, you know they are. I mean,
Clay's feeling a little better. We'll see. Draymond figures out how to actually pass the ball without it going out of bounds.
wasn't it Clay who had the shot in game 5, the 3-point?
he hit the
Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking pretty healthy again. So it'll be an interesting scenario. I could see it really going in. I think you're right. I think Game 7 is going to happen because I think it's a big deal. But good Lord, pray for Toronto because when that game comes back, Game 7 in Toronto, the Raptors win. I mean, Canadians are nice people, but there will be riots.
It's nothing like the
Maple
Eagles
syrup
winning
in
a
the
Super Bowl.
streets.
They won't tear down a light pole like in Philly.
They will not be
They're not going to
climbing
eat
light poles.
horse poop either.
Yeah, they will not be punching a police horse.
And then eating its crap. Like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with you, Philadelphia?
There will never be anything like the Philadelphia celebrating the first Eagles championship. That was a once in a millennium type of city riot.
Yeah, but I'm serious. Actually, you know what? Not just Toronto. Pray for the whole entire country of Canada. Because it is going to be insane. I wish I had the money to just fly up there and spend a weekend in Toronto.
I
After
think
this,
it would
'cause it'd
be
crazy.
really cool, but I do think like people say the country of Canada. I don't think Vancouver really likes the Raptors. I feel
I think
feel
they
like
do because
I
it's their
think
only team.
But I feel like Vancouver feels a little shafted by losing their team because they got a team the same year as the Raptors, and then they just wasn't making the money, and they moved to Memphis.
Think about it this way, Paul. Neither team that was in the Stanley Cup was a hockey team. The six Canadian teams in the NHL just aren't cutting it right now. Look at Calgary, but they lost in the first round. Which a 1 seed losing in the first round. How could that ever happen? Tampa Bay Lightning. Anyway,
and Calgary.
they don't have it. This is it.
San Antonio Spurs.
Their hockey teams aren't playing for championships right now in the NHL, so why not have the whole entire country root for this team?
I hear you, and I do think that happens, but to a lesser extent than people in America expect. Because when America gets behind a team, it is a legit national competition team.
It's a big deal for us.
It's our soccer teams, and our Olympics is really the only things
'Cause,
for
yeah,
us. Like,
Majority of Americans don't care about that.
we don't care about rugby. We don't care about the other national team sports. But we'll see, and I think Toronto's going to have a lot of fun. And there is the report I saw that Drake has music ready to drop when Toronto wins.
Why do that?
What a jinx!
You've already cursed them once. Why curse them again? Like, unbelievable.
Will Drake be there for Game 7?
That's a joke,
Are
right?
you kidding?
He wasn't there for Game 7 against Philly.
Dude, he will be there.
I'm just saying he
Game
wasn't there
7
for Game
of the finals?
Hey, he wasn't there for Game 7 of.
That's different. A conference
Is
championship.
it though?
Conference
Is
championship
it that much different? He thought he was
it
he
is.
thought he was a jinx though. That's why he didn't show up. He wore Philly. He stayed at home and wore 76er stuff because he
If
thought
he
he was
really
a jinx.
thinks he's a
you've got-
jinx, there's no way
He
he
did.
firmly in his head
Brandon,
believes
Then why
that.
he wore
Brandon,
Philly stuff
he's-
at home?
He's playing. That's one picture, but he's playing the crowd.
Look at the publicity he's getting from this. Are you kidding me? Drake is not, if anything, is an attention whore, and he will be there. Are you kidding me? He'll definitely be there.
Would you have said that he was going to miss a game in the conference finals, semifinals?
I'm telling
Right.
you,
I'm
it's-
just saying.
No, I hear you.
understand
You're
that,
right.
But it's still
Just saying.
You're trying to tell me it's not that much different. It is a big difference. Yes, it's a conference championship, but this is a championship.
I think it's interesting. He's been wearing no team gear in all black since game 1.
because it's a funeral for the dynasty, baby. He knows what he's on the same level as me. Death of the dynasty, right here.
He has Steph and KD tattoos.
I know.
I
and
know he does.
covers
We
them
talked
and
about
everything.
that after game
That's
one.
what makes him such a showboater to me. Well, we'll see.
I get it. He's Canadian, but like, come on, dude.
All right, prediction time. I think Golden State wins and Raptors in 7. Brandon,
Same.
Jake,
I'm sticking with Raptors in 6.
Raptors in 6. Okay, we'll see.
I'll be
Tomorrow
different.
night. Tomorrow night. We'll talk about it next week, no matter what happens.
Wait, isn't it tonight as this goes live?
Yeah.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. I'm figuring. I'm working on that. I'm trying.
When you hear this, Game
It-
7
it
will,
will
or Game
be.
6 will be happening.
Correct. Well, let's go to another technically professional sport. We have some controversy with the Women's World Cup.
First, can I do something?
Please.
Goal! I've been wanting to do that all day.
Times 13.
You want me? No, I'm not gonna do. I'm not doing that 13 times.
Yeah, I got neighbors, bro. But we've been facing some flack because our women's team won 13-0. Is it deserved?
No.
I think that I didn't watch the game, but I heard that the team was celebrating like they just scored their first goal
That
on
is a
their
big part of it.
13th,
Right.
and that seems a bit
Well,
ridiculous.
that's also because they broke a record.
Okay, but
They
They're-
broke the record for most goals scored.
but their 10th goal wasn't a record. Their 11th goal wasn't a record.
But who's scoring
12th
the
one
goal?
was, and their 13th.
Yeah,
Alex Morgan, their best player, scored 5 of those goals.
Okay, and that's really cool. But I think
That's
5 goals in one game. is
Yeah.
right. That's
insane.
crazy.
That's cool, but
I think a part of it is if you score a goal in the World Cup, you have worked your entire career to get to that point. So even if Alex Morgan scores 5, that's 8 goals that she didn't score. And to me, I don't care, man. I'm ripping off my shirt and waving it. Like, that is a career achievement. You've worked to get there. And this is rough because I feel like the United States women is in a no-win situation because if we lose this game 13-0, who are people complaining about? The U.S. women's team. Oh, you overlooked Thailand. You deserve this. This is what should have happened. So I feel like we're in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, I think that people need to get over it. I think people are. This is going to sound really funny. Our generation is so soft, and people are so soft when it comes to sports. Sports is all about being better than someone else. That is literally your goal.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, but Thailand, if you don't want to lose by 13 goals, block a shot.
Be better. I watched the highlights, and their goalie does not look like a high-level goalie.
was this their first ever World Cup?
That's a good question.
Because I know that they were not.
I'm
They
sorry,
were-
I do not have
they
that
were-
history of the women's
they
World
were
Cup.
they were probably. I think I've heard that they were the worst team in the World Cup.
But
this
what's
year.
really
and
funny-
the United States is the best
Yeah.
team in the World Cup.
Best by far, we have the best women's soccer system in the world, where we promote girls from the age of 6.
By the way, when you talk about lose-lose, you're right, because defending champion. You are the defending World Cup champion. And so you have to come out and you have to say, hey, remember who we are.
Right.
You have to scare those teams to be like, oh, yeah, that's right. We have to play them, and they're the defending champion.
what is the point where you say we should put in the scrubs? You know,
In soccer, you can't do that though because you only get 3 subs.
I was gonna say, you really
So you can't necessarily do a whole line change like in any other sport.
like in basketball, you put
You
in,
can't
you
bring
put
in
in
your
red shirts and
exactly.
your walk-ons.
You can't do that in soccer because you only get 3 subs.
And look, I'll admit it's excessive. We see this in sports sometimes when you see, Paul and I talked about this earlier before we were recording, but we've seen things where it's like, yeah, that's a little much. You could dribble the ball out and run the clock out. You could take a knee and you can do these things. You can't really do that in soccer.
Sure, you can. You can.
What,
can-
just kick
you
the
can
ball
dribble.
around
Yeah,
and
kick the
just-
ball around.
You can
Plenty
dribble
of
out.
teams-